had a landscape that was accurate, we would not have been able to help create tools that could be put in practice almost immediately. But reaching out, building bridges, understanding that people on the ground have also tremendous skills and talents that they're bringing to the table, and partnering with them is huge. So I guess I want to encourage you to seize your power, but also recognize the power of others and the agency that they are putting into place, not only in fighting this crisis, but really in preventing future crises. You know, Ebola, there were 25 other instances of Ebola since 1976. 25. This is number 26. There will likely be a 27. And I think what we have learned is that you need, for me, the big difference between 1976 in DR Congo and 2014 in the Mana River Union countries is that the health systems fell apart. They have been destroyed. We need, here in the US also, but especially throughout the global South, a commitment to public health. It was there from, I would say, the 60s and the 70s, and then it's slowly starting to dwindle. We've got to use the lessons of this crisis, not only for the countries in the Mana River Union, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea, but throughout the continent, rebuilding public health infrastructure. I think we also have to rebuild the tech infrastructure. I think this is the other lesson here, that without a sound internet system, it is hampering the tools that can be developed. So you in this room can be a part of that. You can be a part of the technological responses. You can be a part of the policy change needed here in Washington, D.C. And I guess I just want to encourage you to seize your power, to go for it, and to use all that is at your disposal to make change happen. I guess I wanted to also say that there are some very creative ways in which people are using games. And so we have, that's the one thing we haven't talked about. But I know here at 1776, there are probably people who are also designing games, but health games that can help bring more information to people. There's a group in Nigeria that created a game called Malaria. It's the MDG, Malaria Destroyer Game. But it's a game for young people having fun, learning about how to prevent deaths from malaria. Thinking creatively, using games, using cartoons, using humor, all of the stuff that's part of our human creativity is also a lesson that I want to leave with this audience here at 1776. You've got so much that you're already doing. Just want to encourage you to keep doing it and to live in solidarity with those, particularly on the other side of the Atlantic. Thank you.
Well, I certainly agree with everything that Amira said, particularly about your role now and in the future, potential role in the future with rebuilding public health infrastructures, with what Jack said about science, with what Ron said about science, Jack said about the template. I think the template exists. And Mark and I, going back to 2001, and so many outbreaks since then, particularly overseas, the phrase lessons learned, suddenly, after Ebola, for me, it's hard to say the phrase anymore. So because I don't think we've really learned lessons until we've implemented the actions that prove that we've learned the lessons, the actions that are needed to prevent or at least mitigate the next outbreak, which there will be a next one, there'll be another one after that, another one after that. There are lots of unknown infectious pathogens out in the world that will become known. When we finally recognize them, there will be more Ebola outbreaks, as Amira said. The virus lives in animals. Bats, great apes, African antelopes, it'll come back in West Africa. Even when, God willing, we get it to zero and it doesn't become endemic in the human population in West Africa, it's still going to be in the animal population. We've really not done much at all to control it there. There are so many templates and lessons that really are never learned until you have the proof of them being learned through implementing the appropriate actions to respond to that disease coming back and to, if not prevent, at least mitigate the future ones that are 100% predictable.
I'm going to talk about a very focused and specific lesson that we learned, and almost in an aha mode. Jack talked about if we're going to do differently, we've got to understand differently. It's one of almost an innovation or creativity technique of flipping 180 degrees reverse. So in an emergency department, you want two things. You want to have treatment rooms to be negative pressure, which means that the pressure in the room is negative with respect to the pressure outside, so that whatever germ is in the room, it gets exhausted out, hopefully then decontaminated. And then the core of the space should be negative with respect to the rest of the place. In most emergency departments right now, 35-bed emergency departments, how many negative pressure rooms? 2 or 3. So back in 2000, we actually designed this system I told you about, ER1, that actually Nick Petrazak, the physician who's the managing director, was the managing head of that of our effort. We built this space of all 20 rooms were negative pressure. We thought that the common thinking is you need an anteroom. You need an anteroom to kind of put stuff on and take stuff off, and then you go treat the patient. Well, that was wrong. That is wrong, and let me tell you why. Because we were thinking about this as a kind of, it's an infection problem in the space where the patient is. No, it's a decontamination problem like you do with people who are contaminated with chemicals or radioactive material, where you have a hot zone, a warm zone, and a cold zone. And the key insight is unidirectional flow. So it's not so much you need an anteroom, we realized you actually need an exit room, which I just find that such an interesting conceptual flip. Our hospitals and our emergency services are not built that way now. So we've got to sort of think creatively, how can we do that without taking up 30 or 40 or 50% more space? How do you build it so you can convert something to an exit room and yet use it in daily operations? And if we had a projector here, I'd show you some pictures, but if you want to find Nick after the thing, he'll raise his hand, we can take a look. Because I think that's the kind of sort of creative thinking that we need based on a different understanding, a frame shift that can lead to innovative progress.
I want to see it afterwards.
We're all going to geek out after Instagram.
Shakespeare once said, innovation happens on a crowded stage. Isn't that a cool thing?
That's good. That's really good.
I just read that the other day. That's a really remarkable statement. I was a startup. I started my company 45 years ago. Now I'm an old man. But I didn't sell out. It's not a joke. I didn't sell out. So my ability to spend resources on the Ebola thing should speak to you. I didn't sell out. I didn't go to venture capital. I didn't get rich quick. I still have the privilege of being able to do maybe 3 or 4 of these sort of things every year because I didn't sell out. So you guys I've seen and met with some of you. You have ideals and idealistic behavior. So I want you to, I'm just an old man, but I want you to look at my model of not selling out. Because if you sell out, if it's just about money that you're chasing, and not the dream that many of you have when you first started your little startups, well, I don't know how to say it. Keep your idealism and don't sell out. Then you get a chance to be able to give back.
That's great.
I'm going to take my turn really quickly, which is, first of all, I want to thank each of you for not only coming tonight, but for your personal commitment to the Ebola crisis and to the people that have been impacted. The thing that I loved about tonight's event is that you are all such different people from such different backgrounds. We have doctors and technologists and geospatial geeks and politicians and venture capitalists, but we're really looking at the crisis saying, what can I personally do, right? Because it turns out that that's actually how we bring about change. We don't wait for someone else to do it. There is no other. The other is us. and we do it in our own domain. So I love that about each of you, and I thank you for coming and sharing your lenses. And then the last takeaway, and I think each of you sort of touched on it in your remarks, which is this is why at 1776 we're focusing on startups that can change the world. And there's many, many paths to doing that, but you hear snippets of just the small ways that each of you as startups can really impact the world in very major ways. And if you have not yet gotten engaged in our community, we encourage you to do that, whether it's through being a mentor, getting to know our companies, highlighting them, inviting them into your communities, looking at how you can help them scale, because it turns out that perhaps some of the ideas for how we solve tomorrow's crises are sitting in this very room. So I thank you all for coming tonight. I wish we had about 4 more hours for conversation tonight, because we probably could spend an hour with each of you individually. But great conversation tonight, and I hope you'll join me in thanking our panel and also come and talk to them afterwards as we have more time for networking. Thank you.